Hello and welcome back to Nathan Bell's podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Today, Nate would like to talk about his childhood experience with sexual abuse.
Right, today I'm going to talk about my childhood experience with sexual abuse. I don't talk about this very often, obviously, because it's a very uncomfortable subject. I wasn't abused by an adult. A lot of people are abused by adults. I was abused by another child. And actually, I think that's one of the reasons it affected me so much growing up. I think people feel shame when they're sexually abused. They feel like they've done something wrong. I think I felt like I had done something wrong as well, more so because I wasn't the victim of an adult, it was another child, and it embarrassed me more and made me more embarrassed. But basically what happened was I was 8 years old, and there was a kid at my school who I used to hang out with at school, and I would go back to his place, obviously, as you do, and hang out with him at his house. And I went back there many times. And then one time when I went back there, he was a bit of a bully, and he was always, picking on me. And you don't know what to do when people are picking on you as a kid. And he sort of bullied me into going under his house. And under his house there was a mattress, and he got me down onto the mattress, and he wanted me to have sex with him. Now, at the time, I didn't really know what sex was. I had no concept of sexuality, and he took me through and explained to me that he wanted me to put my penis up his bum, and then he wanted to put his penis up my bum, and I said I don't want to do this, and he was very manipulative and bullying me, and he would say, if you don't do this, I'll make everyone hate you, and I'll tell your parents that you all these or he would say all these lies. My recollection is vague of specifically what he said because it was a very long time ago. But he basically coerced me by telling me that he was going to tell lies about me and turn everyone against me if I didn't do this. The first time, so I went along with it, and I didn't like it at all. It was a very traumatic experience. I didn't want to do it. It was terrible, and I hated it, and I didn't understand what we were doing. And then I went home feeling very terrible about myself, but I went back again because you're a kid and you don't know and you don't understand. And he did it again, and this went on for a while, probably for a few months. And after a few months, I'd had enough of it because I didn't want any part in it. I didn't want to do it at all. I wasn't interested. I didn't enjoy it. And he was always very mean and cruel and demeaning, and coercing me and manipulating me into doing this. So eventually I stopped going there because it kept happening, and stopped happening. And then a few months later, his family moved out of town, and I was told that he had become sick or something and that he couldn't talk to anyone. So what I think happened, because there was a mattress under the house and this kid was 8 years old. I mean, 8-year-olds don't sexually abuse each other. They're not. He wouldn't have really known what sex was at that age. I didn't know what sex was at that age. So my only assumption with the mattress being under the house was that his father was taking him down there and doing this to him, and then he was acting this out on me, and doing this to me, doing the same thing to me that his father was doing to him. And this all became uncovered in their family, and that's why they moved away. And I never saw him again after that. And anyway, many years later, when I was a teenager and I was at Maitland Youth Refuge, at the youth refuge, I came across another boy who I'd gone to school with in that area. He was in the refuge as well. I'm not going to name any names in this video, obviously. And I confided in him that had happened at that school when I was attending that school, and he told me that boy had done the same thing to him, and that he knew that boy had done the same thing to other boys at the school. So this was happening for a few people. This kid was doing this too. But I don't have any hate towards that kid because he was only 8 years old as well. So, he must have just been acting out what his father was doing to him, because how could an 8-year-old come to the desire to sexually abuse another 8-year-old, it must have been happening to him. Otherwise, how else did he learn about this behaviour? He must have just been acting out what was being done to him. But anyway, it made me feel very terrible. I certainly didn't want to participate in it. I suppose you could say this was rape. I don't know what you'd call it, whether I was being raped or whether I was being manipulated into it or coerced into it. But I didn't, at the time, I absolutely hated it and didn't want any part of it. And it went on for a while before I got the courage, I suppose, to stop this from happening and stop going around there and understood that this was going to keep happening. And so it made me very uncomfortable about sex for a long, long time, because that was my first experience with sex at 8 years old, with this boy coercing me and manipulating me into having sex with him. So that was my first sexual experience, and for many, many years after that, I was very uncomfortable with sexuality, and I sort of felt like everybody knew, even though there was no way anyone could know. And he used to say to me, "Oh, don't talk to the girls, or I'll tell them what we do," trying to keep me away from the girls at school. So it absolutely messed with my head, messed me up completely, and is probably the main reason I was very hesitant to engage in sexuality as a teenager, because I lived with thinking about this for many years, and I would think about it a lot over and over and over again. And I thought about it right through high school, and all through high school I wanted to tell someone that this had happened, and express it to people, but I never knew how to. And I didn't tell anyone about it until I was about 24 years old. And then I sort of told people. I told my mother and some of my friends, and then didn't speak about it again for many years after that. And I still don't speak about it much to this day. But you know, it certainly affected me, and made me very uncomfortable with sexuality. So I think it's why I've had some difficulties engaging with sexuality throughout my life, because I lived with this very early exposure to abusive sexuality, and that sort of put me off sexuality for a very long time. And I'm still not very sexual. I don't have sex. I've had sex, but I struggle immensely to make relationships. Part of that is because I'm Asperger's and I don't have the best people skills, but part of it is also this trauma from this experience as a child. Because as I said, this went on for a while before I broke this off and stopped this from happening, and the whole time I hated it and didn't want any part in it. But he would manipulate me, and he'd come up to me in the schoolyard and tell me to come over in the afternoon and say, basically, you know, if you don't do as I say, I'm going to destroy your life, I'm going to make everyone hate you, and turn everyone against you, and all this manipulation and coercion. And as I said, the other boy at the refuge when I was a teenager who had gone to the same school said that this had happened to him from the same child, and that he knew the same child had done this to several other boys at the school. But like I said, I don't have any hatred towards this kid, because I imagine it must be the case that his father or some other male in his family was doing this to him. Why else would there be this mattress under the house that an 8-year-old would take me down to this mattress under the house and do this? Obviously his father took him down to that mattress and was doing this to him. It's all very concerning and disturbing. But yeah, that's what happened. So I wasn't abused by an adult, I was abused by another child, and we don't talk about that a lot, but it's definitely just as damaging when it happens between children, especially at such a young age as 8 years old, which I was. I had no concept of sexuality, hadn't explored any sexuality, didn't have any sexual desires yet, was, you know, barely just starting to take an interest in girls, and this started happening at such a young age. It really put me off sexuality for a very, very long time. So, you know, I should speak to my therapist more about this, but I put it aside a long time ago and let it go a long time ago. I don't have any negativity about this anymore, but right through my 20s, and right through high school, I had a lot of negativity around this, and I dwelled on it a lot, and thought about it a lot, and wanted to tell people and wanted to express it, but didn't know how to, and was embarrassed. So there's my sexual abuse experience as a child. So drop a comment in the comment section if anything similar happened to you.